Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Baker from Search Engine Journal. Welcome to today's SEJ webinar. With me today, I have Mel Atia from GatherUp. How's it going, Mel?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. Very excited to have you. So today we're going to be discussing digital reputation benchmarks and online review trends by industry. So I got that out.
Yeah, you did.
So this is really interesting. Not just local, but really diving into some data that you have to share with our crowd today as well. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Some real life benchmarks from our customers. So really excited to go through that. If you want to, I can just jump in.
Yeah. Before we get started, we have some people that are just showing up right now. So really want to ask everyone to go ahead and share where you're coming in from in the chat area. We already have some from New York and some other areas that are coming through. Just let everyone know there's no poll today. There's no handouts, but Mel is going to give a QR code that you can scan to get that data, the proprietary data directly from GatherUp. And since we don't have any poll or handouts or anything like that, let's focus on the Q&A. So as you have questions based upon the slides, please go ahead and enter them into the question box. We'll be reviewing them and asking you some of those live as you're presenting, Mel. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. And I think it's pretty much everything on my side. Oh, and don't forget the emojis. So there's a smiley face, the heart, the laugh out loud. Go ahead and click those emojis to let Mel know how she's doing. And on that note, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, hey, everybody. I'm actually coming in from Montreal, Quebec, just on the eastern coast of Canada. So really great to see everybody here. So I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon. Those of you that are having lunch right now and joining us, I'm very grateful that you're here. And those of you that it's evening or even night, thanks. I mean, this means a lot to me that you're taking the time to be here live and present. I'm very excited to share with you this research. This is the second year that we're doing this benchmark report. And what I want to showcase for you is to give you data so that when you work with your customers, if you're in an agency or if it's the company that you work at, and you want to know how are we doing versus the rest of the market, I want to give you that data so that you know how you stand and then how you can improve your standings. And this is based on real information that we have at GatherUp. So a little bit about me. I'm Melatia. I'm the VP Marketing here at GatherUp. I've been doing digital marketing for over 25 years. Actually, I think it's going on 28. I started working in digital marketing in 1997 when modems still called, over the phone line, and we went at 36.6 or 56K. I have seen the rise and fall of so many search engines like Lycos, Ask Jeeves, Yahoo. Remember when Yahoo was a really big deal? They went away. Now Google is dominating the market. And I'm really interested in seeing how search AI is going to evolve and transform. SEO, yeah, Giselle, I also remember dial-up. Absolutely. You didn't want to interrupt that. Otherwise, you'd have a very angry person going, hey, you interrupted my internet. It took me such a long time to load my GIF. All right. So for those of you who don't know GatherUp, we are the only reputation management platform that digital agencies need to build, manage, and protect their clients' online reputation. We provide a white label platform that enables agencies to add review management services to their offering without while increasing the revenue without having to add any overhead. Manoj, it's 11:30 at night. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and make this really worthwhile for you. GatherUp is loved and trusted by thousands of agencies and businesses around the world. We're proud to be named as one of the easiest companies to do business with. We really view digital agencies as partners, and our thousands of customers speak for itself. Here's just a few logos for you in here, just so that you can see. So before I dive into the actual data, I want to show you other data to support why we think reputation management matters today more than ever. Now, this is not our data. This is actually from Google. They state that 60% of consumers today take 6 or more actions before buying from a new brand. These 6 or more actions are research and discovery actions so that they can go and buy with confidence. And 75% of these folks search for reviews before making a decision. And what's really encouraging is that these highly informed consumers, if they end up having a great experience after all of this research that they've invested into in discovering this brand or this company, they're 18 times more likely to recommend the brand. And we know that word of mouth goes a long, long way. And word of mouth can also be supported by online reviews. So, key takeaway for you here is reviews provide social proof that eliminates buyer hesitation and drives conversions. More consumer behavior, and some of you were probably there at the last webinar I did here at Search Engine Journal in December, where we unveiled this research. This is the largest consumer research in the market, where we surveyed more than 1,200 Americans on how they leverage reviews when they do purchasing decisions. So 73% of folks will not consider a business that has fewer than 4 stars in their ratings. So let that sink in. If your client or the company you work for has a lower rating than 4 stars, you are really battling up against really high tides. You need to do better there. And the solution is, of course, reputation management. 56% of respondents said that they would only look at 4 and 5-star reviews. And 73% of them said that they would look at multiple review sources. So I want to bring this to the fore to say, yes, Google is important. Our research shows that about 60% of people still rely on Google as their primary source for reviews, but they won't just look at Google. They want alternative opinions, and they will look at other third-party review websites out there. And 25% of folks that interact with reviews to make a decision will start by filtering the negative reviews first. They want to see what's really bad. So this tells me that if a business is not actively managing their reviews, they're losing customers before even the first interaction. So they'll look at the rating, they'll look at the score, and they'll eliminate you from the running completely. So yeah, exactly, JIV. It's so hard for us to market a new business that hasn't gotten any new reviews. So it's really important to weave in an aggressive review strategy. And I'll tell you how. I'll actually give you some data today that you can take to your customer to help them overcome this barrier or this reluctance in gathering reviews. So for the research today, I looked at 15,000 businesses across multiple industries, and I've compared the data from 2023 and 2024. We looked at review request channels, whether they're active or passive in their review generation. I'll also talk about first and third party data and NPS sentiment. So I just want you to know, this is real data from GatherUp customers. This is not just made up stuff. So before I go into the data, I want to go over some key definitions here. So star rating versus NPS, what's the difference, right? You're all familiar with star ratings, or at least I hope so. I like to think of star ratings as like a snapshot in time of customer sentiment. When you request for feedback using star ratings, it's really at that point in time, right? You went to the restaurant and then you're requested to leave a review. It's about that specific interaction with the restaurant. It's not about the overall sentiment. It really does influence new customer acquisition because it's a part of the search listing. It's there, it's visible, and it's visible on sites like Google, like Yelp, like TripAdvisor, and all of that. Now, we talk about NPS or Net Promoter Score. I'm not going to talk about how Net Promoter Score is measured, but I want to bring this to the fore because I think NPS is a strong indicator of success when it comes to online reviews. And it does so by measuring long-term customer loyalty. So if we think of star ratings as point in time, think of NPS as like overall sentiment. It's actually more predictive of future success. And what's good about it is that it's actually private data to the business. So both are really important, but they serve really different strategic purposes. Now, if you want to learn more about NPS, and I'll repeat this a little bit further in my presentation, you can actually go to gatherup.com, scroll to the bottom of the website. You're going to see a link to Guide to NPS. There's a really detailed guide there. And yes, Rosa, you're going to get access to the recording. All right, so let's talk about first party and third party reviews. So what is more important? So let's talk about the distinctions. First party reviews are owned by the business. And I know that not every online reputation management platform does this, but this is an important thing that we value at GatherUp. We allow businesses to collect direct feedback from their customers and have that and hold that on their own. It's private to them. They own it. They can use it in collateral. It does have SEO benefits because you can actually use schema markup. And we just give you a little code snippet that you put on the website, and you can have the reviews show up. And that's kind of a great way to get people to overcome reluctance in filling out a form, right? It's just a great piece of social proof. Thanks, Brittany, for sharing the guide. And then third-party reviews, think of that as reviews that appear on websites like Google, like Yelp, like TripAdvisor. Those actually impact local search rankings. They build trust and visibility, but they are owned by the third-party website. So technically, you don't own it, you don't have access to it, but it is theirs, and it does play an important role. And businesses that leverage both have the strongest reputations and generally the best local SEO rankings, because you're both leveraging first party for schema markup and your own marketing and social proof, and then third party as that initial discovery, right? Third party reviews matter when people start in the journey, the discovery process, and they start looking online for suggestions. That's the first thing they see. And then first party reviews actually have a big they help a lot with conversions and getting people to get over the apprehensiveness of reaching out to the company. So if you have questions as we go, please let me know.
Yeah, Mel, now's the perfect time for that. And this might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but Alexander had a question. Can you provide some insights and or tips regarding the importance of replying to reviews?
Absolutely.
The length of the reply, keywords, how fast someone should reply, etc.
So those are great. I don't really talk too much about it today, but I do have, so if you go online and you search for Beyond the Stars, GatherUp, the research that we did, the third portion of that research, which we actually presented to the search engine audience last December. So there's a whole portion around the impact of your review responses. And actually our data shows that companies that actually reply to reviews in a thoughtful, meaningful manner has an impact on the quantity of reviews, because folks will want to leave more reviews. It seems to have a motivation on people answering reviews. And then also answering reviews in a timely fashion also plays a big role in an advantage there. Now, for your other questions, I'm going to have to defer to that. Thank you, Jonathan, for the article. Great piece of research there. Just click on the third link in the summary, and it will take you to the meaty parts. You can use all of the graphics in there when you make your business case. I hope that answers your question. So Daniela, you have a great question here saying, can you please provide an example of a first-party review? I actually have one on my slide under the box here, first-party reviews. You see here, there's like the little GatherUp icon, and then there's like the 5 stars here. You can actually install this widget on your website, and then you'll see the star rating. You can also have a page on your website where you see the first-party reviews, and so people can go and take a look at those. So hopefully that helps. All right, so benchmarks. We're here. This is the data. So we know that review volume, in addition to review recency and overall sentiment, matter a lot, right? That's what's going to get you picked ahead of the pack. That's where it's going to have, you're going to have interactions with that prospective customer, because they're going to look at your listings, they're going to interact with the reviews, and they're going to make a decision based on that. So what does that look like by key market? Let's take a look. So if you look at the number of first-party reviews, so I'm going back to these private direct to the company reviews. What's interesting is year over year. So we're looking, the pale blue bar is 2023, and then the green bar is 2024, I should just say. Sorry about that. What you see here is restaurants and healthcare actually have the biggest dip when it comes to first-party feedback. But if you look at the volume here, we're looking at about 150 pieces of feedback a year. if you do the math here, that's roughly 3 pieces of feedback a week. That's a good steady stream. That's freshness right there. So if you look at roughly 50 reviews in a year, because this is the yearly number, that's 1 review a week. So is that good? Is that bad? The averages here show that that's pretty steady and quite good to having just a steady stream of fresh reviews. Now, what's interesting here is the third-party component, right? This is what you're really interested in since you work in optimizing for Google and especially for the local pack, right? So how many reviews should you get? Yeah, Robert, it could be due to HIPAA compliance, although GatherUp's platform is HIPAA compliant, and we actually have filters if you work with a healthcare organization that will edit out personal health information from being published or disclosed. But anyways, that's more technical. Happy to discuss with you further after this presentation. Going into third-party reviews, right, which is the hyper visible one, usually, again, we've seen a drop in healthcare and restaurants, but again, most of these segments have at least 1 review almost every week, and that also helps with important review and recency metrics. Now, in my next slides, I'm going to go into like, this here is an average across all of the locations that we have in our platform that solicits first and third party reviews, but what difference in volume do you get if you're passive versus proactive? And this is where it gets really interesting. So here, on average, what we see for the healthcare sector is that on average, most are doing pretty well. But if you're passive, if you just wait for people to leave you reviews without asking for them, the number of reviews is dismal. It's very, very low. As soon as you combine in person with SMS and email, it goes through the roof for first-party reviews. And the impact is quite similar for third-party reviews. Again, if you look at the number of reviews that you can get, if you're proactive, if you are at the, when the person is done with their health consultation at the receptionist desk, they're told, hey, we're going to be sending you a request to leave us a review. Please keep an eye out for that. And then you follow up using a workflow saying, hey, send an email and or send an SMS. Within the first 24 hours, it has a big impact on review volume. So again, here it shows that it's very important. And for healthcare, of course, HIPAA compliance, as Robert mentioned in the chat. Now, diving into insurance, this is another super competitive, a very security conscious business. So insurance generally does well in gathering first-party feedback. Again, those who leverage all channels get 7 times more first-party reviews than those who do it passively. That's also 7 fresh pieces of feedback per week, which can be marked up using schema and is available on the website and is a great signal for Google. On the third-party review side, the lift is also really important. So leveraging all channels for insurance yields 1 or more third-party review per week. And again, this is the average across. Some organizations have a lot more, some have fewer. It depends also on the customer base size, right? So there's a lot of variables here, but these are benchmarks that you can use to help move your customers forward. So the takeaways when it comes to generating reviews, not all industries have seen increases in reviews, but that's because there's also a little bit of review fatigue. So my advice here would be, don't request a review at every single interaction. Be thoughtful as to when and who gets a review request. If this is like in a restaurant and that person dines in every week, right? Not much of a point to send a request every single time, but at least if you do it on a quarterly basis, that's more helpful. And then they can go in and actually update their review. Using a multi-channel approach helps a lot in driving volume. And yeah, don't be afraid in telling to your client, hey, you know what? You need to train your staff to go ahead and request for reviews. You can even have contests in place. Of course, to be compliant with the FTC fake reviews ruling and also international laws around reviews, you can't bias a review request. You can't say, hey, leave us a positive review. That goes against the law. But what you can do is incent your employees to actually talk about leaving a review to all of their clients that they interact with. And then that will help drive more review volume. And some of our digital agencies actually proactively do this. They have, very aggressive review strategies in place with their customers to help them overcome SEO challenges. So any questions around this section before I go into star ratings?
We did have a question on prioritizing. Should we prioritize Google over third-party reviews, and how practical is it to ask customers to leave reviews in various different platforms, and then also to reply and monitor those reviews as well?
Okay, so a couple questions here. So the first question is, should we prioritize Google? I would say yes, because our last research shows that 60% of survey respondents said that they leveraged Google for review, consultation, and also generation, but it is not the only one. I would say, depending on the sector of your client, so for example, if they're in healthcare, there are other websites like ZocDocs, WebMD, right, where you need to also manage reputation here. And this is where having a diversification, like asking for a review in one place and then the next time getting a review in another website, is really important. The other reason why I think this is vital is with Search GPT, my understanding, and I may be wrong, so this is not gospel by any means, but my understanding so far of Search GPT and AI in general in search is that it will bring up if you're recent, like if you're often mentioned for a specific search or type of query, or you're within websites that talk about the same things and you're listed in multiple places and that information is the same across, that will increase your chances of having your client mentioned in the results. So this is where my philosophy of not putting all of your eggs in one basket, but diversifying is really important. Okay, so that was the first question. Can you remind me the two other questions, please?
It was just in terms of the ability to manage the replies in the various different platforms.
Yes, so having a reputation management tool like GatherUp helps a lot because we help you automate that. Basically, we monitor about 100 websites out there, and you can prioritize. You get signals whenever this comes in, like you get a new review. We also tell you when it's a positive or a negative review based on sentiment, and we'll even help you by suggesting replies. Now, there's something that you need to be careful of. If you over automate and you leverage AI too much to respond to these, that also turns off people, especially if they suspect that your responses to their reviews appear to be generated from an AI. It will turn them off. It will turn them off to leave reviews, but it might also turn them off from actually considering your business to begin with. So we leverage an AI in a way that assists you, that helps you, will make suggestions, but we highly recommend that you take the time to tailor the response because it's considered a part of customer service. So hopefully that helps.
Interesting. Thanks for that. Also had another question that came in. If you're asking all your clients for reviews, do you find a stronger bias for positive reviews than negative? And is there any way to identify which customers or clients would sway towards more of a positive review?
I understand. So what you're talking about here is a little bit gray hat. GatherUp is very much a white hat style reputation management platform. What we do, and the reason why I talk about first party feedback, is our research shows that most people would rather air grievances privately than actually go and leave a nasty third party review out there. And most folks will only leave a nasty third party review as an absolute last resort if they feel they had no other way of escalating it. Now this happens, there's a bad interaction that happens in the store. The person's not feeling confrontational, but they're angry. They go home. If they're not given an opportunity to vent privately, then they'll go and they might vent on third-party websites. The way we have it set up in GatherUp is that you can ask for feedback up front. Usually that's where you'll get the most critical feedback. And you don't alter the experience based on positive or negative. Then you can lead them to a third-party website. And generally, because you give them the opportunity to air their grievances privately, they tend to be a lot nicer on the third-party website. That's just human psychology. The other component is a bad review is not the end of the world. How you respond to the review is really important because people will seek those out. When they go and look at reviews, they'll filter to see negative reviews. They'll also see how you've taken the time to respond to it. And I have stats a little bit later in the presentation to talk about people giving second chances to businesses after having had a bad experience, leaving a bad review, and even updating the review. All right, I'm going to move forward with a few more of my slides. I'm happy to take questions as we go, but I do have some more, I'm going into star ratings. I think everybody wants to hear about that. All right, so I have a dad joke. I'm so sorry. I have to say it. Star ratings, the true stars of the show. There, I said it. I feel a lot better. Thank you. So what we looked at were the 6 key industries that we were following in our last year's report. We compared it to 2023 versus 2024. The big takeaway here is that it's pretty stable. Now, this is a good barometer whether your clients are doing well or not. So if you've got, thank you, Jessica. I did need to get that off my chest. So if your clients have lower scores than that, you can definitely help them increase. Of course, that does mean that they need to make changes to their business, right? Star ratings correlate with satisfaction. If they're doing poorly because they're serving their clients poorly or it's a bad experience, of course, you can't fix that. But what you can do is put in a mechanism in place so they can gather this negative feedback, take it in, process it, apply changes so that they can actually do better. That's the whole point of seeking feedback, right? Actually, Lexi, I'll be talking about construction category. Home services is different. So construction will be really sort of like roofing, anything to do with construction, anything requiring a hard hat would be construction. Home services is a different category here. Hopefully that helps. All right. So again, we broke out the data by channels used to solicit the ratings. What's interesting is, again, being passive leads to lower scores. It leads to such low scores that you wouldn't even be considered, right? Because remember, 73% of people said they won't even look at something below 4 stars. So if you're actually proactive, it can give you a boost of up to 1.4 star points. So if you have a client or a customer that has currently a low rating of 3.4, if you just put in place proactive reputation management that's thoughtful, that they actually follow through the reputation cycle, you can boost that score by 1.4 points, which makes a big difference in SEO listings. And then we can say the same thing for insurance. Now, we have a little bit of an outlier here. We have some of the insurance organizations that solicit using SMS only, and for some reason it's giving them 5.0 star ratings. I would say that's an exception, not the rule, but I wanted to show you the data as I had it and not edit it. So here, again, same story. If you apply a proactive multi-channel approach at gathering feedback and star ratings, you just do better. So I also touch on some other industries here, which could be interesting to you. So best and worst performers. So these are averages, regardless whether they're proactive or just passive. Professional services doing pretty good. Education and training, pretty good. Beauty and wellness, pretty good. Lower scores, logistics, automotive, still not bad, still above 4. So now we looked at completely passive. What if they just use GatherUp to, seek out the ratings, respond to reviews, but not actually ask reviews? Home services, terrible, like less than 1 star. That's fewer than 3% of people would consider even look at that business to begin with. Insurance also, healthcare, education and training, sub 4 stars, not good at all. Funeral and memorial services, this is a segment that we serve very well. Of course, this is a very occasional purchase. It's a very considered purchase. Yeah, I'm not surprised that they do well, even if it's passive. Beauty and wellness does fairly well when it's passive, but then it's hyper competitive, right? They're almost at that 5.0 rating, and a 4.5 next to a 4.9 doesn't look so good. Legal services, 4.2, and automotive, 4.1. So, Tarek, you know what? I'm probably going to look bad saying this, but I don't think I've ever heard of Reddit reviews. I'm going to look that up. So you've taught me something today. Hopefully it doesn't make me look too bad. Okay, so key takeaways here for star ratings. Waiting for people to passively rate you generally leads to just having dissatisfied people leave bad ratings because you're not even giving them an outlet to share how they feel. Adopting a multi-channel approach helps with review volume and recency, absolutely helps also with sentiment. So really important. And timing absolutely matters. Our research shows, this is the Beyond the Stars research, says that most folks want to be asked within the first 24 hours of the interaction. And most folks want to leave a review. They just get distracted with life. So going multi-channel and making it really easy for them to answer from their phone, whether in an email or an SMS, goes a long way in gathering these reviews. So any questions on the star rating section?
We had a couple questions come in, and one does have to do with timing. So Matt asks, how do you handle replying to older reviews? For example, if the Google business profile you're managing has reviews from years ago, should you still go in and reply? Does it make sense? Like, for example, if there's another agency taking care of it or someone's new to the job, right? And going in and looking at, does it make sense to reply? Is there a certain cutoff date?
So that's a good question. I don't have data to back my answer. I'm just going to answer what I think I would do, and hopefully that helps. So what I would do is I would sort using the regular behavior of a review goer, which I'm pretty sure you use reviews as well, right? So when I look at reviews to make a decision, what I do is I usually look at whatever Google serves as like their most relevant reviews. I then pick and look at the worst reviews, so the lowest ratings. And usually I'll go for like a page full of those. I would make sure that those are answered regardless of the age at which they came in, like how long ago they came in, at least to showcase that there's a thoughtful answer there. But I wouldn't go and answer every old one, especially if they spill over to like page 2, page 3, page 4. And then same thing for positive reviews. And I wouldn't respond to every single 5-star review with no actual thoughtful review. Instead, respond to reviews where it's clear that the person took the time to respond, like give a thoughtful piece of feedback, and make sure that you personalize that response with that. And GatherUp does that really well with the suggested responses feature that we have in the platform, where we're going to give you a suggested response. You can tailor it to really align with what's being said by the reviewer, and then you can post it. So hopefully that helps you with the question. This is not data backed. This is just what I would do. So hopefully that helps.
Definitely does. Thanks.
All right. All right. So moving on to NPS, and I talked about it, and I know some of you are like, her again with this NPS stuff. What does it have to do with online reviews? Well, it has everything to do with it. NPS ratings directly correlate with star ratings and review volume. So again, I won't explain how you get to that calculation, but I do invite you to read that content on gatherup.com. You scroll to the bottom of the website, you get Guide to NPS, read that thing, or Brittany will reshare the link in the chat. But really, NPS is a measurement of sentiment of how your company is doing globally, and that is really important. So one thing that's really interesting, looking at 2023 versus 2024, all sectors that actually practice collecting feedback are seeing a notable impact on NPS. And it's a big predictor of revenue, growth, and repeat business. So in last year's report, we mentioned that these ratings are much higher than industry averages, in some instances up to 25 points. And that is still the case today. So and I'm not saying that's because they're using GatherUp. I'm just saying that it's because they're doing proactive reputation management and they're measuring NPS. Because they're seeking feedback, people have just a better sentiment towards the business because it's a show of empathy and wanting to do better. And so people tend to feel better about the businesses that they're dealing with. And they're a lot more tolerant when there's like one not so great thing that happens, especially when it's a relationship that's over time. So within this, so we then looked at the data and said, okay, well, what happened to the NPS when we measured from Jan 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024? And the rating didn't change so much within the year. It stayed stable. So it means that the businesses that were gathering this information were really focused on maintaining their level of service to their customer. So again, I wanted to showcase like how is NPS affected if you have a robust feedback loop. So again, companies that don't solicit feedback, the businesses in general fare a lot worse. Sorry, Javier, you said that it was not clear in the growth section. Clarify what wasn't clear, and then I'll come back and try and do better on that one. But in any case, for this specific slide here, what matters is, again, we talked about being proactive, right? Making sure that you talk about it at the moment of interaction, following up, using email, using SMS. That makes a big difference on the NPS score. And then breaking away from our usual segments, here are the average GatherUp NPS ratings by segment on average. So beauty and wellness does pretty well. Funeral and memorial, pretty good. Insurance, pretty good. Trade and construction, pretty good. Automotive, less good, but still not bad. Logistics, transportation, and storage. Fast food and beverage, or food and beverage, I should say, and cleaning and maintenance, which is actually food and beverage is different from restaurant. And then here, completely passive. Beauty and wellness, doing okay, but then the jump is pretty low, right? It goes immediately to 58 for cleaning, automotive 51, and then it can go all the way down to 12. So not great. Again, being proactive and seeking feedback, applying the feedback, just overall better performance for the business. So NPS relies on proactive feedback, and NPS is an indicator of success. Our position here at GatherUp is that you need to continuously solicit feedback, apply the feedback, take the time to respond to reviews, because that will give you an edge in getting new business, keeping your clients, and growing the business overall. Now, I've got some supplemental data, but I wanted to just ask, Javier mentioned that it wasn't clear in the growth section. Were there any other questions related to NPS that I can answer before I jumped into the final portion of the research piece?
I don't see anything on my end in terms of NPS questions, unless someone's going to drop it into chat, but we could probably revisit those if they do happen. Okay,
got it. So Javier actually took the time to clarify his question. So you said, I meant the growth section for NPS. How can you convert NPS to clients? So NPS is not a rating that would be showcased per se on your website, but it's actually a predictor. So if your business has a higher NPS score, or NPS, I should say, because Net Promoter Score is redundant. Anyways, so Net Promoter Score, it means that it will generally fare better in terms of review volume. So they will be likelier to leave you more reviews and more positive reviews. This is why the NPS number is so important. And by managing that and showing that to your clients as an agency, that allows you to show that you're thinking about the business in a proactive way. And it's actually an indicator of future success. And there's a piece of research by, I can't remember off the top of my head, McKinsey, I believe, that says that for every, I think it's 12 NPS points, there's a big percentage of revenue growth related to that. So you serving your client, driving more business and keeping the business, that is a big predictor of success and positions you as a better advisor to your client. So hopefully that helps, Javier. All right, so moving forward, I've got some more data for you to use with your clients and customers as you build your business case. Exactly, Javier. It's to build, it contributes to organic growth. Absolutely. Actually, NPS, the key question here, and I promised I wouldn't go into it, but I'm going to talk about it, is the question that is posed in an NPS style question is, how likely, from a scale from a 0 to 10, are you likely to recommend us to a friend or a colleague, depending on the type of service, of course? Those that pick 9 or 10 are considered promoters. Those that pick 6 or less, they're considered detractors. And the philosophy behind this is that promoters will enthusiastically recommend the business to their friends and colleagues. So if somebody says, I'm looking for a doctor, and you gave your doctor a 10 out of 10, say, oh, you should go see my doctor. My primary care provider is amazing, and these are all the reasons why you should consult them for your health issues. But if you would give your doctor a 5 out of 10, instead, you will warn others and say, do not go see this doctor. This is a bad doctor, and here are all of the reasons why. So NPS number is basically the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors, and that's your number. So hopefully that helps. So some more data for you to make the case that reputation management is really important. Per our survey late last year, 99% of people said that they consult reviews when it comes to businesses that are new to them. 85% of them trust reviews at varying degrees, and 21% said that they trust them completely. The next important stat here is that 30% of people expect a near perfect score when dealing with a business, and 73% of people need at least 4 stars to deal with a business. But again, if you're thinking about local listings and you have a 4.2 versus a 4.7, the 4.7 is going to likely win unless there's something very, very different. But the 4.7 will probably lead the pack more than the 4.2. So even that 0.1 star makes a big difference. And only 3% of folks will consider a review rating lower than 3. So out of every 100 potential customers, only 3 may engage with the business. And you would really want to put all of the odds on your side at getting that customer, not just a tiny portion of it. And then owner responses here. So this is my little bonus section here. We had a question earlier about owner responses. So 82% of people said that they prefer selecting brands that actively respond to reviews. So that's every 4 out of 5 people said, if you respond to reviews, I'm likelier to select you, of course, responding in a positive and good manner. And 92% of people said that they view review responses as part of customer service, that this is like, it is a visible proof of how you treat your customers. So the key takeaway here is that responding, like soliciting reviews is very important. Responding to them is very important. It's an integral part to building trust and loyalty. And then another bonus slide for you. Complaints are not the monster. They're not something to be feared. No business is perfect. And getting a negative review every once in a while is not bad. I feel it looks a little bit suspicious when somebody has a perfect score and they have thousands of reviews, something is wrong, right? But if they have a less than perfect score, responding to a dissatisfied customer in a thoughtful manner, saying you're sorry, offering to make good, 73% of folks will give you a second chance. 54% of them will update their negative review after resolution. But on the flip side, almost 60% of people will not return if they're ignored. So, and I find that number quite low. I would say that most folks will not return if they're ignored, but sometimes I guess you don't have a choice. So taking the time to respond to complaints can have a big, big impact. And also it showcases how you're willing to deal with, a less than perfect experience, because nobody's perfect.
This is amazing data, by the way. It just really goes to show like the return on investment by participating in the reviews, getting back to negative ones. And then to your point, if you can flip, if there's a negative review, and if you can flip around that customer's opinion on your business and get to know them better, that can really have a long-term impact on customer loyalty.
Absolutely. Exactly. Right. People don't remember what you said. They don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. Right. And that might sound cliche, but if you actually take the time to acknowledge their dissatisfaction and make good, you will have positive outcomes out of it. All right. So what's the big key takeaway here? Receiving starts with asking. Just ask for reviews. Waiting for folks to leave your reviews. They're super busy. They will only take action if you let them know, and not just let them know one time, but ask them a few times. Not everybody can manually request every single time. So you leverage a system to do this for you, set them up in a workflow. That's just a great way to get these reviews, get a steady stream of fresh reviews as well, right? One a week is very good. It just shows that this business is active. They're getting new customers all the time. It makes it attractive for others. Being curious, soliciting feedback gets scores up and gets your ratings up. And just by asking questions and being curious, it just buys a lot of really goodwill from your customers. And my final thought here is go multi-channel, right? Think about signage in the store. Think about training folks that deal with customers, front desk people to talk about the review coming in. I'm sure you've gone to, a hardware store, you've been given your receipt and said, if you answer this survey, you can get a coupon or you can get something, right? Just training them and saying, hey, expect us to ask you for a review. That would really help us out. People want to help out people. And then follow up with automated processes. And if you want the full report with a lot more detail, a lot more data, scan this page. This will take you to our full research. You are the first people to see it. I held on to this to make sure that this was an exclusive for Search Engine Journal. We're going to do a repeat of this webinar on April 10th. So if you want to go through the numbers again, if you want to have other questions answered, I'm super happy to talk to you. Otherwise, I'm totally open to questions.
Really appreciate that, Mel, and definitely love going into the data. And especially if it's gather up data, it's even better. So had some interesting questions come in. Cassia asks, how do you recommend responding to reviews that don't necessarily make sense? For example, a review or rating mismatch where the review is amazing service, absolutely recommended, would hire again, but then it's 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, so those are tricky. So sometimes it could be that the person's finger slipped. They clicked the wrong one, but then they take the long form review and try and make good on it. One way that you can actually fix that is request for an updated review. That's doable, especially if you know who the client is. If you don't know who that is, just respond and say, thank you so much for leaving this thoughtful review. People understand this. It does impact your rating, unfortunately, but at least you're taking all the steps on your side, and people will read the review and say, oh, okay, this is not actually a critical review. This is just a slip of the finger.
Thank you. Thank you. Had a number of questions come in about HIPAA compliance.
Yes.
And the ability to solicit reviews or ask for reviews. So are there, do you have any tips for the healthcare space where you have to be compliant, and ways that are compliant to ask for reviews?
So I'm not super technically proficient on GatherUp, but I do know we have a HIPAA compliance toggle. And I believe what it does is it actually censors information. It censors the person's information, like their name, right? And will pull out anything that would allow somebody to say, oh, it was a consultation with such and such about such and such a thing. So, and also how you respond to those reviews is very important. We have a whole guide on how to respond in a HIPAA compliant manner to these reviews. So again, you don't want to reveal any kind of personal health information. You don't want to disclose too much, but you still want to acknowledge and do that in a compliant way.
Nice. So I had a question come in from a new business asking, what is an effective way to solicit or encourage reviews from customers when they're just getting their business started?
Yeah. So if this is a brand new business, just make it a part of the customer experience flow where you'll train your client to ask for these things as they go. And oftentimes people want to help. So it's like, hey, we're new. If you really enjoyed your service, please leave us a review. Of course, don't bias to be positive or negative. I was about to do that. Don't do that. But help us out. Let people know what you think, and then follow up using an automated system. If you start doing these things right away, they'll organically add reviews over time. And you have to be careful of not getting like a big bump of reviews. Google tends to look at those as being very suspicious. Like you went from 0 reviews to 100 reviews overnight. That's not a good signal. You actually want these to come in an organic way. And remember, I showed in one of the slides that roughly like 1 a week is pretty solid. You could get more, but I would trickle it and go through a workflow where it solicits reviews from a handful of people every day, just so that you have this natural pacing. So yeah, that would be my tip.
Excellent. I had some questions come in about successfully removing negative reviews. Is that something that you would advise?
So that's a good question. We actually entered in a partnership with the transparency company. So it's not about removing negative reviews. If the review is legitimate and you don't agree with it, then answer it, right? But removing a legitimate negative review it's not worthwhile. However, what you want to do is you want to remove fake reviews. You want to identify what appears to be suspicious, and you want to get those addressed. Now, our partnership with the transparency company allows you to get basically a score, a trust score, based on your reviews. And review fraud is very much a thing. It's very much a problem. And getting yourself certified as your reviews being genuine is great. And those that are flagged as being potentially fake or false, those can be raised and signaled for removal. But oftentimes the game is not fake negative reviews for yourself. It's fake positive reviews for your competitors. Right. And there's a way to manage that. So to even the playing field, report everything that looks suspicious. And we do this through the transparency company, through our exclusive partnership with them. And that's a great way to even out the playing field.
Nice. It's really good to know. And it also kind of got me thinking that we talk about reviews a lot, but at the same time, especially within Google, there's an opportunity to upload photos. There's all kinds of I guess multimedia approaches to reviews as well. So when it comes to photos that are like not desirable or something along those lines, do you have any tips on maybe getting those taken down or changed?
Yeah. So depending on the platform, there's usually a way to escalate those, especially if they go against the terms and conditions of the website. So if it's an inappropriate picture, of course, flag those, escalate those. You don't want those to be visible. I just saw a comment here from Alexander. So he says here, if the negative review causes my overall rating to dip, I'm going to do whatever I can to try and take it down. So Alexander, I guess maybe that makes me a little bit boring, but I would say if that negative review is legitimate, answer it, address it, try and make good with that client, and then ask them to update their rating, right? I think that's the best way you can deal with it. If it's a fake negative review, then that's a different thing, and that can be escalated.
It's really good advice. Also, one thing I see a lot of too is companies will reply, but they'll reply with the same exact line, every single thing, right? And you can just tell it's very copy and paste. They're not even using AI.
Exactly. That's the problem, right? People recognize that and they find that suspicious, and it has two negative effects. They won't want to leave a review because they're going to say, well, what's the point? I'm not actually going to get a thoughtful response. So why should I bother taking the time to leave a thoughtful review? But then also, it's just bad. People they recognize it and won't want to do business with a company that doesn't take the time to respond legitimately to reviews.
Excellent. This also kind of got me thinking, maybe because it's almost lunchtime here on the West Coast, is when you were discussing companies that have like a 3.5, 4.2, 4.7, first thing that came to mind was Grubhub and a lot of the food ordering apps, right? Because the reviews are all there. You can rank them by reviews. And if I see a restaurant that's a 3 or a 3.2, especially with lots of different reviews, there's a problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a great analogy that Ron from One Firefly shared with us, which he actually uses with his clients when he talks about having an aggressive review and reputation management strategy in place. Let's say it's Friday night and you're going to the restaurant and you see two restaurants across the street from each other. One of them, the parking lot is full. The other one, the parking lot is empty. Which one are you going to go eat at? You're going to go to the one that's full, right? You figure out if the parking lot is empty at the other one, there's something wrong with the food, and you want to be where everybody else is, where they look like they're having a great time.
Makes perfect sense. Unless you want to be served quickly. Then you can go to the empty one, I would imagine. This is fantastic. So you'll be doing a follow-up webinar, correct?
Yes, I'm doing a follow-up. We're going to do a replay of this presentation. I'll be with Alexia Plattenberg, which is our Senior Product Marketing Manager. She's going to add some supplemental color to this. We're also going to be doing industry cuts of this research. So I actually have deep data for healthcare insurance, like specific types of healthcare organization, like podiatry, audiology, family practice, with actual data for review volume, star ratings, how to solicit. And we're going to be breaking those out throughout the year. So I highly recommend that you we'll be emailing you and letting you know about these research pieces, but we'll be going in more depth. But we're doing a redo of this research on April 10th, and we'll be revealing more great content as we go throughout the year.
Excellent. I can't wait. So it's really been a pleasure having you today and going through this data. And the fact that we're going to have more data on the 10th makes me want to watch it again. So just as a reminder for everyone, the webinar video and slides will be made available. We'll be sending those out. And if you haven't had a chance yet, take a picture of that QR code so you can read the full report and gather up. Mel, it's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very excited. I know we're presenting again in June, and we'll have some more exciting information.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.